All right. So welcome everyone who is here for this Child Nexus Live on August 11th. My name is Dr. Karen Wilson. I'm the founder of Child Nexus, which is a digital platform that connects parents who have kids who struggle with learning, processing, or may have social emotional challenges with professionals who provide services. And since COVID-19, we have been providing a number of webinars to support families during this challenging time. And as they prepare to transition back to school, we've been doing a series of webinars that are providing support for families who are trying to navigate these unprecedented waters, as you might say. So today, I am thrilled to introduce our speaker for today. Her name is Lindsay Recknell. She is a Calgary-based speaker, facilitator, and mental health advocate. And she uses the science of hope and resilience to show that the best thing about going through hard times is that we get to go through them, which is very exciting. And I think that we can all probably agree that right now, at this particular time, we are all in need of hope and resilience as we try to build resilience in ourselves and in our children, which is so critical to our overall well-being in general, but very much needed at this particular time in our lives. So I saw Lindsay being interviewed a while ago on a television program, and she started talking about Martin Seligman and positive psychology, and she was talking about optimism and hope and the circuits of the brain. And then once she started mentioning the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, she had me hooked, because as a neuropsychologist, I love anytime anyone connects real life things that are going on with the brain. And I said, I really need to have her come in and share her expertise with the Child Nexus community. And so I am just thrilled to have you here, Lindsay. And I look forward to you sharing what you're going to share today about hope and resilience with the community. And I am here to take notes as well. So I'm going to turn over my screen to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It is my absolute pleasure to be here with everybody today. Give me a second here and I will load up my presentation and share my screen with you. Now, let's make sure I share the right screen. Again, I have this problem every time. Let me know when you can see it. And not the speaker note version.
I can see it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Karen, for such a wonderful introduction. It is my absolute pleasure to be here today. I know that you and I have connected, I feel like, right away. Like you are just somebody that is so well aligned to the same way that I think. And I love the message and all of what you're trying to do at Child Nexus. It's incredible, and I can't even imagine all the stress and anxiety that families are facing right now, especially as we go back to school and whatever school looks like. And I don't think we even know yet, right? No. I don't think there's anything that so much that is so certain for us right now. And I think that there is no better time to be building and growing our resilience than right now, because like Karen mentioned, I really believe that the only way to get through hard times is to go through them to the other side. So thank you for spending a few minutes of your time with us tonight. I almost didn't make it here. I don't know if anybody else can resonate with the crazy, ridiculous day. I felt like I was running meeting to meeting to meeting. Other people's emergencies all of a sudden became my problem, and their lack of planning was awful. I really struggled with today, and I don't know if that's something that happens a lot to other people, but I definitely depended on my resilience today. I really, I found myself though feeling like the victim, feeling like things were happening to me, that I didn't have control over them, that it was poor me, that I couldn't keep up and I wasn't able to get my own work done. And I don't like when I get into that frame of mind. I would much rather be the hero of my own story, and I want to talk more about that today. I want to talk about perspective and mindset and how we do get to be the heroes of our own story. This is an analogy that I heard from a personal development speaker that I follow, a gentleman called Donald Miller, and he's written a book called The Story Brand. And he talks about how in all stories, storybooks, movies, TV shows, there are 4 typical characters. The victim being one of those, the hero being another, but also the villain, right? There's always somebody thwarting, in this case, clients, family members in my life today, time. So there's the villain. There's also a guide. So the people in our lives that are mentors, that are supporters, the cheerleaders. So those 4 characters show up in my life, show up in superhero movies, and really can help to grow our resilience. And I'd like to use that as the foundation of what we talk about today, because really we do get to be the heroes of our own journey, and our journey through resilience will really require that of us. All right. So I just want to do a little Zoom etiquette for those that aren't so familiar with Zoom. I know we've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings probably over the last 4 or 5 months, but in case this is one of your few or have features that you're unfamiliar with, you can chat. There's some icons here. If you'd like to ask some questions, there's a chat window. We will have Q&A at the end of the session, but if there's something that you urgently want to talk about, just type it in there. Or you're thinking about now and don't want to forget, type it in there. Karen will be monitoring and we'll make sure to get to those questions for sure. You can also react. So if I say something brilliant and inspiring and you want to clap for me, please do that. There's a virtual clap button in the reaction, or a thumbs up. Fortunately, there's no thumbs down. I feel like that's cool. There's also, it'll tell you that Karen's recording the session as she mentioned. And there's some other features that we won't deal with today, but just, play around in there. All right. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about me. As Karen mentioned, I'm a super fan of applied positive psychology. I'm in fact a candidate for the master's program out of the University of Pennsylvania with an expected start next fall. Dr. Martin Seligman, who is the founder of Positive Psychology, is still on faculty there, so I feel like I need to learn at the feet of the master. I am also a psychological health and safety advisor. Kind of a mouthful, a tongue twister. Basically, it means a workplace mental health professional, so somebody who helps organizations support their employees to feel safe and secure at work so that they can show up as their best selves and really bring their best problem solving and innovative ideas to the table. I have been doing a lot of volunteer work with the Canadian Mental Health Association. I know Karen mentioned that I'm a Calgarian, so I'm well supported by the CMHA, Alberta and Calgary division. I've been a consultant for the last 10 years and I've worked in IT, leadership development, and communications. So I'm well-rounded in having to be resilient, having run my own business as a consultant and also as an online entrepreneur for the last, do the math, Lens, 9 years. I've worked remote for the last 8 years, so this whole being home with my family full-time thing that we've been experiencing is something I've gotten used to. We've been home together, my husband and I have been home together for the last 4 years, and it's been awesome and also awful, depending on the day. But I bet a lot of you can relate to that as well. We have 2 golden retrievers. They are called Wiley and Squeak, and most often you can find me on my bike or in my running shoes as a way to manage my own mental health as well as my physical health. All right, this is the participation point of the show. So if you'd like to participate in the poll, I would love if you would go to this website on your browser. So just type in the website address, or I know that we can put it in the chat window as well. I'll copy and paste that link into the chat. Beautiful, there we are. So if you want to participate, just go to that web address and you can answer the first question, which is, how are you feeling about the global pandemic? And I realize that this, how you're feeling about the pandemic is probably scope and scale, right? This morning you might have felt different about it than you do right now, but right now, how are you feeling about the pandemic? Awesome, so we know one person got there for sure. Still worried about it, but we can see glimpses. We can see the light at the end of that hopeful tunnel? Anyone else? Oh, in despair of the state of the world, I can get behind that. Sometimes it feels like there isn't any lights at the end of the tunnel. That's fair. And the thing about how we're feeling about the global pandemic is that we get to feel it, right? How we feel about it is how we feel about it. It's not right, wrong, or indifferent. We get to feel how we feel. I love that someone is looking for opportunity and seeing opportunity. I found that a lot of many people that I've spoke to are intentionally looking for opportunity as a way to maintain a hopeful future. I really believe my definition of hope is that the future will be better than today by taking action over the things we can control. And I really believe that by seeing opportunity, we can start to take some action over that hopeful future and make our future better than today. Awesome. So we're kind of everywhere. We're feeling all along the scale of feelings about the pandemic. Awesome. I appreciate you participating. All right, one more. In one word, tell us what is helping you get through these uncertain times. One word. Is it a person? Is it a pet? Is it a book? Is it wine? That's okay. What is helping you get through these uncertain times? Walking, keeping busy, family. You can answer as many things as is helping you get through these times. Working, projects, work, yeah. I can definitely relate to using work as a coping mechanism. Hope, yes. People after my own heart, love it. If I was to answer this, it would definitely be biking. My Instagram feed is full of nothing but views from my bike. Also reading and dog walks. I plan my entire life on dog walks. I don't know if that's something else other people experience, but I definitely plan my life on dog walks. Other people are walking. Improving yourself, I like it. Faith, that's a big one. Wine, and I can get behind wine. Definitely can get behind wine. Awesome. So we are finding some coping mechanisms, some ways that we're building our resilience by doing things, taking action. That's awesome. Love it. All right, last one. How resilient do you think you are? No right or wrong. Just how resilient today, if you thought about it, some self-reflection, how resilient do you think you are? Sometimes I feel like I fall apart at the first sign of adversity. Strong and durable, holding up well. That's some good resiliency. Some resilient people on the line here, I like it. Very nice. I like that the idea that holding up well during tough times means that we don't have to hold up forever, right? But that we can hold up for a little bit. We can hold up for a little bit longer, as long as we can get some control and get some certainty back in our life. And I think that that's one of the things that I've struggled with the most over the last 6 months and going into the fall as well, with the whole idea of a second wave and what does school look like and our offices reopening. And I heard on the radio today, they were talking about the cold and what impact everybody going back in their homes in the fall when the snow flies and what impact that'll have on our health. And then also somebody mentioned the longer term impacts. And I think, Karen, you could probably appreciate this, is what impact will this have long term on kids' immune systems? You know, if they're not able to be in school getting exposed to some of these germs and things like that, what kind of immunity will they have as they grow up, having been, you know, confined for a year? So all of these things are so uncertain and scary questions, and I didn't want to hear that one about immune systems because I hadn't thought about it yet. I much prefer to think about the things that I'm used to, but the ambiguity and uncertainty has definitely been a real big challenge for me, and I can imagine it must be for other people as well. I'm happy to hear that we are feeling reasonably resilient, however, and by the end of this presentation, you will have some more strategies to become even more resilient. So for those of us with a structured thinking preference who'd like to know where we're going and how we're getting there, here is our quick agenda. We will talk about the science of resilience and its connection to positive psychology, of course. We will talk about perspective and mindset. I think this one cannot be understated at all. At the beginning, I was talking about that victim mindset and feeling like I had no control over my day. Truly, if I change my perspective to become the hero of my story, I can, stand up and face the challenge and act with courage and run towards adversity and get through that adversity. I really think it is about perspective and mindset. And then, as promised, we'll talk about how to build resilience with some strategies and techniques. And then also, Karen will follow this webinar with an additional handout of more strategies to build resilience. So, I'd like to tell you a little story about my friend Roger. Clearly, Roger is a fake character, but this is my friend Roger. Roger is going to be one of the heroes of our story. In 3/4 of a decade, Roger has experienced some unbelievable adversity and global phenomenon, yet look at his smiling face. We can do hard things. In fact, it's our strength and satisfaction with life, our actual growth as human beings that counts on us being able to do hard things and come through those hard things. Roger is a hero in his life. Let me tell you some of the things that he's gone through since he was born in 1990. I realize with the elixir of life, he's now 120. However, we're going to talk about the first 75 years of Roger's life. So by the time Roger was 14, World War I has started. Lasted for 4 years. So by the time he's of legal age in my country, in Canada, he's already been through one World War. And then the Spanish flu hits. So he can relate to COVID and what that impact that has on his life. And the Spanish flu epidemic lasts for 2 years. Heaven help us if COVID lasts for 2 years in the uncertainty that it's in right now. But they can do it, we can totally do it. 9 years later, the Great Depression hits, and I can only imagine the impact that this had economically, socially, on Roger's life, and he survived it for an additional 4 years. By the time Roger's 39, he has now started his second World War, which lasts for 6 more years. So by the time he's just a little bit older than me, he's now been through 2 World Wars, the Great Depression, and a flu. A few years after that, the Korean War starts. Now he's got another war to live through. This one lasts for 3 years. And finally, another World War. This one lasts for 20 years. So by the time Roger is, the age of, the average age of human being at 75, he's been through all of this trauma and adversity, and yet he has not let it affect him in a deep, abiding way, because we can only assume that he has grown through this adversity and built his resilience. What is resilience? So the American Psychological Association, which is the leading educational body for psychology, they have the definition of this. So resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. Roger had clearly been through significant sources of stress. We have been through significant sources of stress, and we're building our resilience along the way. I'm a big lover of knowledge and education and learning that all I can learn. And one of the really cool things that I loved about resilience and the science of resilience is that it can be learned. We are not stuck with our own current level of resilience. We get to build it, and we get to use all the tools in our arsenal to do that. So our ability to develop resilience is on many factors. Some are genetic and developmental, outside our control, but there are lots within our control. Our cultural, economic, social variables, all of these things can really help us to build our resilience. It can be learned. I'm going to show you how. All right, as promised, the science of resilience. So a field of study within positive psychology, which is super near and dear to my heart because hope, the science of hope, is also a field of study within positive psychology, which is one of my favorites. This resiliency is a common trait in people. So I'm sure if you thought about the people in your life, you could recognize resiliency in other people. It is something that we naturally often will demonstrate. It is pretty common. The next one was mind-blowing to me. It requires emotional distress. You cannot build resilience without going through hard things. I know I keep saying that, but you can't build resilience without going through hard things. It requires it of you. And so that's kind of exciting to me. It's a perspective. It's a different way of looking at all the wild craziness that we're going through. Is the prize is our strength of resilience. Thinking about what a resilient person looks like, some of the markers of resilience: ability to make plans and carry them out, so to take action towards that hopeful future. Most often, resilient people have a positive view of themselves, will have confidence, and they will have confidence in their strengths and their skills and their abilities. They're often really great at communication, or want to develop their skills in communication, and they're great problem solvers, critical thinkers. They have agency over their lives. They can take control over the things they can control and work towards those goals to help get out of the situations that they're in. They also have capacity to manage their strong feelings and impulses. And this one's tough for a lot of people to learn, because when we're in the stress and overwhelm and exhaustion, I feel like the first thing to go is my ability to control my own impulses. And resilient people have that capacity, and I think it's definitely one of the things I can learn a little bit better. So I thought that this was a great research study to talk about today, being as I'm with a group of caregivers for children. So a lot of research, as you can imagine, has been done around resiliency, especially within the field of positive psychology. And one particular study was super interesting to me because it was a 32-year longitudinal study. Longitudinal means that they follow the study participants over time. So they followed these kids, these 698 kids in Hawaii, for 32 years. So watch them grow and develop over time. So the study was started in 1989 by a psychologist called Emmy Werner, and she took these 698 kids. 2/3 of these kids came from stable homes, so stereotypically stable homes. Supportive parents, great economics, education, those kinds of things. 2/3 of these kids came from stable homes, and 1/3 of these kids came from at-risk homes. So stereotypically at-risk homes, lower socioeconomic status, maybe not a stable home life, access to education, food insecurity, all these kinds of things. So 1/3 of these kids came from this at-risk group. So when they followed these kids over 32 years, what they found was, as you might expect, 2/3 of these at-risk kids did develop serious learning or behavior problems. So by age 10, many of them had delinquency records. They suffered from mental health problems and other education learning challenges. And some of them even had teen pregnancy by the time they were 18 years old. But the beautiful part is that 1/3 of these kids in the high-risk category did not suffer from the same afflictions as the other kids did. 1/3 of these kids developed into competent, confident, and caring adults. They had academic success, social success, and they really demonstrated their desire and ability to explore other opportunities. They really took agency over their own situation and found ways to make their future better than today. These kids, when they researched these kids and spoke to these kids, they really recognized some common traits in these kids, that they often had supportive caregivers with them, mentors. parents or teachers in their life that believed in them, that supported them, that taught them. And these are the same kind of roles that many of you on this call are playing in the roles of the kids that you are supporting. You are helping to increase their resilience. These kids also seem to meet the world on their own terms. I just picture these kids sort of standing, tall, hands on shoulders, like the hero, wind in their face. Come on, world, bring it on. I got this, And this visual of these really strong, resilient kids. They're independent, they are confident, they look for new experiences, and they also have that internal locus of control. So they really believe that they can control what they could control and take action towards making that future better than today. What they decided is that what really mattered in the lives of these kids is whether or not they took that stress and that trauma and made it into something traumatizing. So it's all about perspective. You can see how we keep coming back to this idea of perspective and mindset, and whether these kids made it into something traumatizing or not. So I'd like you to give some thought to your own life and where you have been the hero in your own story. Or do you more often play the victim? Are you showing up, acting with courage? You live in this space of uncertainty and face the fear and do it anyway. Where have you been the hero in your own story? And if you'd like to share in the comments, that would be awesome. We'd love to hear about it. And if you would just like to think about it and be silent, that's perfectly awesome as well. Yeah, Karen says if you can learn it, then you can teach it to your children. Sometimes it's hard to think of, about ourselves and look at ourselves in a positive light, right? Often if we look into our lives, we can identify resilient people we have, guides that we have in our life, but it's sometimes hard to pick out where we've been the hero in our own story. I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but it's hard to be confident sometimes and speak out loud about how we are the heroes in our own story. I know in the last 5 years, I'm pretty darn proud of some of the resiliency that I've been able to maintain and grow through, not only with COVID, but some of the mental health challenges that I've had in my own life, in my own family. And I've definitely been a hero in my own story in some of those situations. And yeah, I'm proud of that. So yeah, I'm sure that there are other people that experience being the hero in their own story. Yeah, Vicky, asking for help and keep searching for ideas to try. That's key, right? Asking for help, how hard is it? How often do we not ask for help because we got this, we can totally do this ourselves? Or we can't, or we would have. So asking for help is definitely being the hero in our own story. Yeah, that's awesome. Wonderful. All right, so if you think of other ways you've been the hero in your own story as we go through, please feel free to add them to the chat and we will keep going on. All right, so I talked about a lot, perspective. And so again, with personal development, one of the leaders that I follow is a woman called Rachel Hollis, and she's an author. You may have heard of her. She talked about this idea of perspective in a webinar that I was on of her a couple months ago. Take a look at this burning house. Now, if you are a firefighter, you look at this house and you probably think of a job to do. You might be disconnected from it. You are looking where the source of the fire is coming from, the place you need, the highest priority, the place you need to address quickest. You just see a job to do. Now, if you're a pyromaniac and you're standing back and you're the guy that set that fire, maybe you are looking at that burning house as something completely different. Maybe there's pride, I don't know, joy, I don't know what it feels like to be a pyromaniac. However, I bet it's different than the feelings of a firefighter when they look at that same house. And then if you look at that house and you think of that house as your home, the place where you've raised your family, where your memories are, I bet you have a very different perspective of that home than either the firefighter or the pyromaniac. And as we mentioned, these experiences, our perspective, is not traumatic until we experience them as traumatic. So every event has the potential to be traumatic or not based on our perspective. Perspective is the way we see the world around us. So perspective is the way you see the world around you. Not often based on reality, it's just based on what's already happened to you. Does that make sense? Okay, so perspective is the way you see the world around you, and it may or may not be built on reality. It's probably somewhere in the middle. Mindset is how we think about what we see. So it's often a self-fulfilling prophecy. How we think will shape it, how we think about will shape how we feel about it. What you see as adversity, as a threat, like a victim, right? If you frame adversity as a threat, you are like a victim. If you ruminate on the situation, if it becomes an enduring problem for you, if it makes you more inflexible, you're more likely to be negatively affected. So if you frame adversity as a threat and put yourself in that victim role, you can change your mindset about that. If you frame your adversity as a challenge, if you become more flexible and figure out a way to deal with the situation, you move on, if you learn from it, if you grow through it, you can be the hero. You guessed it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those that frame adversity as a challenge are like the hero in their own story. All right. So at the very beginning, we talked about the 4 characters in the story. We talked about the victim, the villain, the hero, and the guide. Now, I've talked a lot about the heroes, but the guides are a really important part of the story, really important part of your story. In that research study of the kids, one of the key characteristics of resilient kids were the kids with those mentors, those parents and teachers that had supported them in their life over those 32 years, that helped them to be more successful in life, to grow their resilience. And I can imagine that we all have and can identify some of these guides in our life, right? Building resilience doesn't have to be done on our own. Every hero needs a guide, someone who can mentor them along the way. Think of Grasshopper, the Karate Kid had Grasshopper. We can think about Robin and Batman. Who's Batman's guy in the cave that does the car? Anyway, I feel like he's a guide in Batman's life. Guides give advice, they demonstrate the behaviors we want to model our own behavior against, and most importantly, I feel like they're there to support us and pick us up if we fall. So part of building resilience is identifying and connecting with the guides in our life. So I would like us to take a few minutes, and I would like you to write down the names of important guides in your life. So for me, one of my really important guides is my parents. Mom and Dad are 2 most supportive, mentoring humans on the planet. They have been such an impact, have had such an impact on my life over the last 41 years, and I absolutely identify them as a guide for me. I'm sure that there are a number of people in your life that you can identify as guides, and I would like you to write down 2 of those, 2 really important people in your life. And then under each name, write down 2 things that you can do to strengthen your connection to that person. So this strengthening the connection, I think, is really, really important, especially right now, right? There are so many ways that we are disconnected these days that finding intentional ways to strengthen that connection could not be understated. In fact, it is something that the Navy SEALs, some of the highest trained, most diligent organization in the world, they use guides and intention to really support their program. They identify the importance of having a strong team and a support network in determining mental toughness, even especially when faced with challenges, this becomes even more critical. So even if you're just listening to me speak, I would love if you would write down the names and write down 2 ways that you're going to strengthen your connection to that person in the next week. If I told you that my guide is my mom and dad, the 2 ways that I'm going to strengthen my connection to them in this next week is to have a FaceTime call with them, which is something that we do often, especially during COVID, and I love it. And I think something else that I might do, my dad and I read a lot of the same books, and I've been reading a lot, and I think I'm going to pick out a couple books that I think that he would really like, that would, we can talk about after he's read them as well, and that would help to strengthen our relationship and strengthen our connection. So those are some examples of ways that you can connect with the guide in your life. All right, as promised, we're going to talk about some strategy for building resilience. Some of these are obvious. Some of these are not maybe as obvious, and some of these are more important than others. So I won't read them all, but I do want to talk about number 10 in particular. So taking care of yourself, right? Self-care. We often, I think, at least I do for sure, put myself last. More often, everyone else is more important than me, my family, my work. Every other person's emergency is way more important than my emergency. However, like they say in an airplane, you have to put your own mask on first before you help other people, because if you are suffering from oxygen deprivation, you cannot help anyone else. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you take nothing away today, besides being the hero in your own life, obviously, is to try to take care of yourself. Find ways to put yourself first. It is not selfish. I promise you, it is not selfish. And it doesn't have to be things like candles and bubble baths. That is a misconception of self-care. Candles and bubble baths, if that's your thing, do that for sure. Do not let me knock you for that. But it doesn't have to be that way. It can be, a quiet coffee on the porch before everybody gets up in the morning. It could be a dog walk by yourself. Heck, it could be a solo vacation. That's okay. I love solo vacations. They are like the most rejuvenating thing ever. Often things that we think about that are selfish, or we should be doing with other people, or we should let other people do first, take care of yourself first. That is going to keep you stronger, get you more energy so that you have time and space to show up for other people, but you really need to take care of yourself first. That's a huge part of building resilience. Another one that I really love, acceptance. So we know that COVID is here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future in some shape or form. So accept that change is going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about that, but there are lots that you can do things about, lots of actions you can take, and try to accept that change is a part of living, and you get to change, you get to grow and move through all of this kind of craziness that's going on. So these are 10. There's also more in that resource that Karen will send you. And of course, positivepsychology.com website is unbelievable, full of resources, totally free resources. So check out some of their programming as well. All right, and finally, I would like to talk about intention. So I mentioned this word intention a lot. I really believe that if we plan and we be proactive in some of the things that we like to achieve, that's how it's going to happen. If we actually write down what we set our minds to, we might actually do it. So again, take out your pen and paper or get your typing fingers on the chat window. Let's talk about what you intend to do, so the action, what you intend to do to increase your resilience, and why you're going to do that. So why are you going to take that action? So in my case, the example I've got here is I intend to start a gratitude practice so I can improve my well-being and increase my resilience. We know that when we are thankful and show gratitude, it actually lights up the neural pathways in our brain. ignites a whole bunch of chemicals that are make us feel better, make us feel quite positive and quite happy, and having a good gratitude practice gives us a real nice positive outlook on life, and that will definitely help me to build my resilience. I'm going to be intentional about that. Yeah. Just looking in the comments here, Karen's talking about how there's growing research on gratitude and well-being. I love that there's more and more research about this, because for so long nobody wanted to talk about gratitude, right? It was that fluffy cosmic woo-woo kind of thing reserved for Zen masters and yoga teachers. But gratitude is a real thing. You know, it's powerful. It's really super powerful. Anybody want to share what they're going to take action on? I'll go back to some of the things that we talked about on how to build resilience. Vicki talks about number 3 resonating with her, accepting that change is part of living. Yep, time's going to keep on ticking. We get to change our relationship with our lives and change our relationship with time, change our relationship with change. Well, I hope you found some ways that you can be intentional and take some of these ideas away today. I have loved to show you and teach you a little bit more about resilience and hope, and how you can change your perspective to increase your resilience and use science to support the evidence behind the fact that it can be learned, that resilience can be learned, and that we do get through these hard times so that we can come out the other side stronger for the next thing, because we know the next thing is coming, whatever that looks like for us. The next thing is definitely coming. So thanks for spending your time with me today. I will take any questions if people have them, and yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Lindsay, for sharing your expertise with us. This was really, really amazing. And I love the idea that you cannot build resilience without going through some level of distress, right? If things were easy, you wouldn't grow, right? And so I think that's a very powerful thing to understand as we think about resilience.
Perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then also the idea is that resilience can be learned. And, you know, one of the things I put in the chat is that if you can learn it, then you can also teach resilience to your children. And as I look through that list that you had, there are things that we can reframe for our children to help them kind of get through this challenging time, right? Even modeling, taking care of yourself, what that looks like, and tapping into what their goals are. You know, we're getting ready to begin a new academic year. And so what are their goals? What do they want to accomplish this year? You know, regardless of what the year looks like, have them set some goals for themselves in terms of something that they want to achieve. I think is really meaningful, can be really meaningful for them.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in identifying something to look forward to, right? That hopeful future will keep us going when times get tough.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and you may not have questions because you've answered them all.
I love it. My job here is done. Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have any questions for Lindsay while she is here? We will be sending you a link to the video so you can rewatch it. You can share it with someone who you think might benefit from watching it. And she also has handouts that she prepared for us that I'm also going to send to you by the end of this week with a link to the video.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen, for the invitation.
Thank you so much.
And
thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on this live event, and I look forward to having you come back and do some more of this work with us. So thank you.
Anytime.
All right. Okay, and thanks for all who attended. And again, we will follow up with an email with a link to the video, the resources that Lindsay mentioned, and feel free to share that email with anyone else you think would benefit from hearing this information. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your week.
Take care.
Okay, bye.